As I mentioned in my opening remarks, the U.S. must send a clear message to President Aliyev that the use of force against sovereign Armenian territory, including the province of Sunak, would be completely unacceptable. Ambassador O'Brien, what measures is the administration prepared to use to deter such a move by Baku? Is the decision to forego, as you alluded to in your opening comments, a Section 907 waiver for Azerbaijan part of that effort, and what else? What other measures are you taking?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have signaled repeatedly, Ambassador Power, communications from the Secretary, every high-level contact we've had, that the use of force inside Armenia is completely unacceptable. The authorities in Baku have assured us they have no such intention, and we're monitoring very closely the movement of troops and any indication that they might have plans otherwise. As I indicated, we've told them that there's no chance of business as usual as long as the peace agreement goes unconcluded. So what steps do we take with that? It's two things. One is we have canceled a number of senior-level engagements. We do not anticipate submitting a waiver on 907, which enables us to provide some assistance to Azerbaijan. And it is assistance that's meaningful both to them and to us, so this has some effect. And we are noting that the possibility of building a transit corridor hinges on the conclusion of a peace agreement and an agreement with Armenia on working consensually to develop that. So we're putting forth all the elements that we see as important in the relationship in order to see whether we can get a peace agreement concluded now.
Okay. Thank you. Ambassador O'Brien, in your written testimony, you said that the State Department is supporting efforts to interview those who fled Nagorno-Karabakh to learn more about what they experienced. What has the State Department learned from these interviews about the living conditions of ethnic Armenians and their treatment during Azerbaijan's offensive?
So I don't want to get in front of the conclusions, and I want to maybe offer a little context. In my background, I began as a young State Department lawyer where I was one of the informal group at the time to investigate the activities in Bosnia where the phrase ethnic cleansing first came to international attention. This takes some time because we're dealing with a population that had been under enormous stress in the months leading up to the events of September 19th and has been through an extraordinarily difficult time. So we're just beginning to speak with the residents, and it's not just us. We're also, there are other groups that are actively involved. We want to be sure that we're not re-interviewing the same people in a way that it causes them further trauma. So this coordinating effort's taken some time. What we're learning is there was a period of a condition of fear due to the closure of the Lachin corridor in the run-up. That's no surprise to anyone. And so that when Azeri authorities came in forcibly on September 19th, it caused the residents to want to leave. Now, exactly what activities took place where, under what command and control, and how that was conveyed to the residents, these are all subjects we're seeking to learn. And again, it's not just government officials doing this. We know there has been a report published by Human Rights Watch. The International Crisis Group is publishing results of its interviews. We also anticipate that the Helsinki committees from Norway and Poland will have their own independent reviews. All of those things will coordinate or we will bring together in a report that we think will give us a true picture. But it does take some time as we deal with a population that is still itself analyzing what has happened to it.
And Dr. Sokolowski, what more does the international community need to be doing to address the urgent needs of ethnic Armenian refugees now in Armenia?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for that question. If I could start, partly respond a little bit to the previous question, because USAID has sent the Bureau for Europe and Eurasia's leading expert on human rights for the region to Armenia to work with our mission on developing an additional programmatic effort that would seek to gather testimony from those who have come from Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia. And we are, of course, coordinating closely with many of the groups that my colleague had mentioned, including the State Department and non-governmental organizations. I would just concur with what he said with regard to this takes time and we want to make sure that we do it right, but we are definitely focusing on that issue. With regard to the second question in terms of understanding the need and if we are meeting the need, I would start with two things. First, we are engaged in a broad and deep conversation with the government of Armenia, particularly with the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, which is the lead agency for responding to the new arrivals from Nagorno-Karabakh, to make sure that the needs are being met. And we are helping them and working with them to see what their needs are and responding appropriately. Of course, they are signaling to us areas where they see additional areas for need, and we're in that conversation with them right now. Secondly, I would emphasize the point I made in my testimony that they are receiving strong marks so far. I think many had thought that we were not going to receive this many displaced persons this quickly, but the government of Armenia, I think, showed itself to have shown some foresight and preparation and has been handling it well. However, yes, especially as we go from the medium to the longer term, there's going to have to be some effort made to help integrate these folks into Armenian life. And from my conversations with them, I will end with this, many of them dream of going back to Nagorno-Karabakh, but for right now, they are oriented towards making a life in Armenia, and the government of Armenia is poised to help them do that.
Thank you. And I now recognize Ranking Member Keating for any questions that you may have.